Yeah, I don't know if you guys were all aware, there was a business plan that came out in 2013 in regards to our training ground. Basically in 2013, council had asked all the managers within the corporation to look at ways of gaining revenue. Basically what we did in the fire hall is we looked at what services were being offered by MESC, and unfortunately when you look around here, you'd be lucky to say 10% of the firefighters in central and northern Manitoba have any sort of training. So there's a big gap from receiving training from MESC. So it was determined that we would upgrade the training grounds, work with offering courses to the communities, and charge a small fee for it. So basically the business plan was basically on schedule. This was supposed to be the year, although it's a little slow. I've been working with UCN, who is working with the accreditation. And they're a little slow looking at it because they have bigger ideas, but they're slowly working on it.
Who's working on that? Excuse me, who's working on that?
I can't remember. Ben, do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is that something that we could partner with the Manitoba Emergency Services College, though, maybe potentially, like approach them and say, like, you know, if we had the training grounds here, you know, would you guys be willing to come and provide some free services if you already have all of the equipment and everything here for them? Maybe that's something that you could see if they'd be willing to partner.
Last time that happened, the fire commissioner was up here for Firefighters Ball. We sat at the ball and talked about the training ground. He explained to me how the Thompson training ground wasn't working for him. We talked about using the Pause training ground. He basically came out, took a look at the training ground, went back to Winnipeg, and sent $100,000 to Thompson to upgrade their training ground.
So
I guess that kind of fell flat.
This is the fire commissioner, but is this the same person from that would, like, you would work with or liaise with from the Manitoba Emergency Services College, or is this somebody from like the office of the fire commissioner?
The fire commissioner runs the Manitoba Services College.
Okay.
They take direction from him.
Okay.
I guess, Crystal, you know, if things had been the way they should be, there wouldn't be any of these issues up here, but they are, and it created a place where a person could basically offer a service. You know, it's like the training isn't happening in the north. It's a complaint by all the fire chiefs continuously. So there is a big void. There are issues with it, and you know, people have to be a little creative to overcome it. You know, I will mention we did try to do a course. Tried to do a rural company officer course through MESC, and all of a sudden, you know, everything was all lined up, and then at the last minute, parameters were being changed by the college, and basically they punted half our crew and decided not to hold the course here, but hold it down in Brandon instead. So, you know, it's like, you know, there has been attempts to work with them, they just haven't been very successful.
So what happens with that, I guess, plan? That plan now? I mean, in your report, you're saying that you're no longer willing to work on it. So is it kind of just, I don't know, I guess, I don't know what the terminology uses, but
I'm taking a sabbatical right now.
Okay.
And moving forward with it.
Okay.
There's a lot of other issues happening right now that are very time consuming. And, you know, I don't have the time or energy that I want to devote to it. A lot of this stuff was happening on the off hours. So, you know. Okay, where would you like to go next?
Well, I mean, let's keep
Excellent.
going through your report, right?
The other one in the report is, you know, basically workplace health and safety and going back to the technical rescues are the ones that require having the proper certification. You know, I have no problem with, like I say, if, you know, if nobody here believes what I'm saying, feel free to call workplace health and safety, tell them what we're doing and ask them if it's okay. Yeah.
So then what about the argument that not the entire department needs to be completely trained. That, if what you're saying is so, that, throughout the north, I think the number you gave was about 10% of all firefighters in northern Manitoba are properly skilled. So, yet, fire alarms go off and people go out, volunteers go out and they put out fires. So I'm wondering if because what I read into this, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're suggesting that in order to perform proper protection in our community, all members must be fully certified.
I think that we need to have a high degree of certification. I believe what you're saying there is an element of truth to. You can work. I'll use hazardous materials. If you have a technician level, he can work with somebody at an operations level and they can perform the evolutions. Yes.
Just had a quick question. What's our percentage right now of certified firefighters?
1%.
1%?
1%.
Or one person out of
1 person.
23.
Yeah.
What was the percentage before? How many certified firefighters did we have before we lost the 8 firefighters that
I had
dismissed?
two that were good for high angle, confined space, and water.
No, just certified firefighters, level 1 and level 2.
Oh, you're talking certified firefighters?
Yeah, how many level 1 firefighters do we have on the fire department right now?
We have one right now.
We have one?
No. Firefighters, we have
Level 1.
actual certified.
Yeah.
I'd have to double check because I'm not sure of some of the certifications with the other guys. But there are a few of the level 1 guys kicking around. There are a bunch of guys that have done the level 1 training, but haven't done their exams
Done
yet.
the exams, okay.
And then as of April 11th, on April 11th, how many do we have?
Out of that, I think out of the 8 people that left, I forget what I reported on, but I think only 5 additional ones had.
Over half it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
Okay. We talked about withdrawing services and turning them over.
So is that a recommendation that you're going to be making,
Yeah,
that we don't,
that's
sorry,
Is it a
is that-
recommendation
yeah,
that we,
that we don't provide any of those services anymore that's going to be coming forward? Like the
Until we
rescue?
can, get people up to a proper level. I mean, one of the things as well is we have to be careful offering services. Workplace health and safety requires employers to have these services. The town engineering department is required to have people able to do confined space. The pulp mill, the hospital, all these people are required to have people in place to do these. Most of these industries are relying on the town to provide those services.
because they have been able to, or they just did?
I have no idea why they don't. This was something that was in place before I got here. The problem we have, and you have to be careful, is that if we're offering to provide these services, then we better be able to provide these services. But if somebody has a call requiring these services and we don't have enough people showing up for the call, then what happens?
So,
Workplace health and safety comes down on that employer, who in turn comes back to us because we were to provide the service and we failed to do so.
so are you suggesting that we should be asking, industry, for lack of a better word, to be providing these services for themselves? Like, how does it work in other communities? Like, in other
I think
communities,
that
is
we
it the
should be looking
businesses
at,
that...
we should be looking at working with them, where we should do a joint and a system with it. And that way there, if nothing else, and if the mill can come up or the hospital can come up with a few people and we have a few people, we should be able to perform the evolution. I guess the big thing is here again, why is the responsibility on the town to provide services for an employer?
I guess some of those would come with fire and emergency response services, which they pay taxes for, right? So to answer your question, I mean, they pay taxes, so they expect that those services are going to be available to them because those are the services that
Why
they're
would we
paying
have a
for their
Zodiac
taxes, right? Like,
I don't know. I didn't buy it. Just to answer your question, Crystal, here again is that misconception. One should always remember this is a volunteer fire department. There is no guaranteed response. I'm not saying that that'll ever happen, but sometimes there just aren't the people available, regardless of whether you have 20 or 30 people.
I think you're saying it has to stop by August 30th. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm reading.
Yeah, that's basically it, because right now, these services are happening, and I'm basically responsible for them. And I'm basically saying that as of August 30th, I won't allow it to happen where I'm responsible.
I want to be careful with my words here, but in the springtime, we had Zodiac Boat, we had people who could do all of this stuff, all of these different courses and programs, and now we are telling our taxpayers that, nope, we're not doing it. Go see the RCMP. I went to the RCMP. The RCMP said, no, we don't do that. Well, we better find out who's doing that. And now we're going to tell our taxpayers, listen, if we have to come and, do some ropes or something, you better have a bunch of people there to help us because we don't know what we're doing. That's what it sounds like. Is that, tell me that's not so.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that we've never had the people to do this, regardless of the time. When I arrived here, we didn't have the people that were properly certified to do this.
Some of those guys standing at the back wouldn't know how to do a water rescue?
Well, here again, we're talking knowledge versus certification, aren't we?
Okay.
And here again, I'm not saying they did a fine job, but the issue is the liabilities, and are we doing it properly? Are we following the processes? No.
Okay. Opinions, yeah. Okay.
I just wonder though, I mean, along that train of thought here, so of the services that we provide, the technical rescue services that we provide, 2 of the 3 are born out of entities in town that pay taxes. So the requirement for high-angle rope rescue or confined space rescue, hospital, UCN, the mill, those things drive the need to have those technical requirements within our expertise of our volunteer fire department. Obviously, those business units would be well aware that it is in fact a volunteer fire department, that there is no guarantee that there is going to be always the right people at the end of the phone to make happen what needs to happen. So, I mean, it causes me some concern. The water rescue is a moot point for me. It's the bridge, it's the river. It's not really our concern. It's our concern. We're always concerned about what's going on. But water rescue is an element I'm not really interested in talking about at this point in time. What I am interested in talking about is where somebody that pays taxes, whether it be a business or whatever, can come to us and say, we're paying taxes, we expect this level of service, and this situation has been created where you're not able to provide it anymore. And as a taxpayer, that causes me concern. And so, I mean, I want to make sure that I'm clear that I don't consider, for me, that's a heavy point, right? I mean, you have had reasons to make changes within your department. I don't know the details around that. I didn't sit on the hearing panel. I'm not interested in really discussing that at this point in time. I just want to make sure I make the point that if a department head makes a decision and the ramifications down the line mean that we're not able to provide a service that taxpayers are funding us to provide them, and that's their expectation, or it's our expectation, that we better be darn sure that we have a really good and valid and competent response to how we're dealing with that. I feel like that's missing a little bit here, the response end of it. I'm not suggesting there isn't one, but as an outcome and as an additional information request for our next meeting, can we get, I mean, it also lends itself to Alan's request regarding like a training grid or whatever you want to call it. We need to be able to defend the position that we're in. And as a department head, we ask our CAO to ensure that our department heads are managing the departments to the best of the abilities and requirements of the town. And so, I want to make sure that I have a good answer for Tolko or for the hospital or whomever about when we will be able to provide technical rescue services with respect to rope rescue and the confined space rescue. The water one, it's a bit of a moot point for me. It'd be great if we have it. It's not really a critical one for me. There's no reason that OCN couldn't be just as trained in water rescue and provide that service to us, or to whomever it is that needs it, that happens to be on the bridge or in the river. So, I mean, I would make that request that at some point between now and the next 2 weeks, we see information that shows us that there is a good response that we're able to make to people that have that concern for us. And I think that's a fair and legitimate request.
Well, and I'd be happy to provide you with the information.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay. What would you like to discuss next?
Gee, where did we get?
Well, we're almost through here. What have we got left here? What we've got left is the comparisons of the fire department budgets. Why don't we talk about that for a little bit here?
Well, sure. Okay, so Winkler's got a $750,000 budget and 3 times the population. I don't understand the comparison between the two.
Well, I think that Winkler's a fair comparison.
Okay.
They're a department that basically has the same call volume as us, the same amount of members. Really, the only difference between Winkler and the PAW is they have a ladder truck and we don't. Otherwise, the equipment is very, very similar. Basically, just because they have a little more population shouldn't have any bearing into their budget because, that just means a lower mill rate. I mean, obviously, they're doing the same amount of work.
I could ask a few taxpayers here who would say more taxpayers equals more money. I think.
But then let me ask you a question. Because I remember during a campaign where you talked about a fee for service, and you used to say that, oh, well, it didn't matter if the fire was at, the 12,000 square foot house or the mobile home. A fire is a fire, a call is a call.
You're going to show up.
So why wouldn't the same apply to Winkler? A call is a call. So their cost and everything is the same as ours. What they do is the same as us, but they have a bigger budget. Flin Flon has a bigger budget and they do less than us. That was just put in the report to basically explain that, there is a bit of a problem with the budget.
So, but does your budget include the money that we get from places like Clearwater Lake and the RM of Kelsey for our contracts that we have with them to provide emergency services? Because I don't think Flin Flon's fire department has a contract with any outlying municipalities. You've put in there that they don't leave town borders, so they wouldn't get so that's your operating budget, but is that including the monies that comes in from the contracts that go to fire services? No,
our monies are kept in capital and just basically purchase the trucks and some equipment.
But we do get more than just the 335. That's what our taxpayers pay.
Yeah, and we're just discussing operating budgets with the other 2 departments too.
So it's 750 is just operating.
That's what Richard told me.
Okay. Richard.
Yeah, Hazel.
Yeah. He wrote that Hillbilly Handbook. I remember.
Very good.
Just one quick question here.
Yeah.
So when we go out onto calls and we invoice out for that call, right?
Yes.
Because we're a fee for service. Like if there's a fire in the RM right now, we would go to the RM and we would send them a bill.
That's correct.
So when we receive that money goes into capital?
Yes.
It doesn't go into operating?
No, it goes directly into the fire department capital.
Yeah. All calls outside the boundaries. There's a way to replenish reserves without pulling it direct from operating.
So what basically happens then is the call that is done out of town, the expense for the call, as in wages and fuel and everything, is basically taken out of the operations part.
Sure.
But then we don't.
We're hoping, and I've been talking to Jody about potentially in the future, trying to change that a little so that we recoup the wages and that from the out of town calls.
But one of the reasons that we do that is so that we don't have to ask for money from the taxpayers to put into reserve funds for things like the fire truck. So
it's a wonderful program. It saves the taxpayers basically, $150,000 a year.
No, but it doesn't give a true representation of the actual operating budget and the money that's being spent on actual operations. Because if it says we have an annual operating budget of $335,000 and we're spending between $125,000 and $150,000 working on calls outside of our municipal boundaries, then we're actually only spending between $185,000 and $210,000 on our actual operating for the operations of the municipality, right?
No, we're spending the $335,000.
You
for
bet
the
we are.
operations.
But if we're not using those dollars within the community and we're taking those dollars and invoicing them out and putting them into capital, we're using operation. It's
numbers.
It's numbers, but it's a different way of looking.
I don't know if it's accounted for that way, though, the way that you think. I mean, maybe we could check with Jody later, but
Yeah.
And since the OFC is examining the bylaw, this was my intent when I brought it to the set, could they not look at what we spend, our equipment, everything? Because when it comes through in budget, make the best decision we can, but this is a pretty important department. So if we're nowhere near what the provincial standards should be, then we got a bigger problem.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's all in the budget, it's all.
So I don't know if we can ask Jen. Don't throw anything at me. To add that to them,
Yeah, yeah, that's, I mean,
so we know.
I don't know if
Send them a
that, was
copy
that
of our
not part of
budget and
the,
ask them
It
to-
went with the bylaw.
it went
yeah, I
with
was
the
gonna say,
bylaw.
that
There
was
you go.
part of the request that we made, right? Just to have them review our spending and whether or not that was appropriate for a department of that size.
All right, is there anything else?
I just, quickly, and it's not the biggest deal in the world, but people do ask. And so I would just love to give them a timeline. When you're going to have stickers on the chief's vehicle and when you're going to sticker up that fire truck we've had for 2 years.
Darwin Marshall is doing the stickers, and he's working on them as you speak.
That's the best.
So
news
as soon
I've
as,
heard
as
of.
soon as he gets them done, he'll be phoning me, and they'll be going on the truck.
Good. Happy to hear. Happy to hear.
Just a quick question. A citizen commented to me in the grocery store that they'd heard there's an increase in false alarms. What is, one, is there, has there been? And two, is there any impact on the fire department when that happens? Or is it just
There has been an
minimal?
increase in false alarms. In the last basically 3 months, suddenly we've been getting a whole bunch of nighttime calls for Prospectors Point or, places out of town. We've had a couple in town. So far, they've been unable to trace back to who the callers are. They're basically using a block number, and they're using third-party callers. I.e., the person will phone somebody else and tell them their house is on fire, and then that somebody will phone the call in. So, yes, there has been an increase.
Does it have, what kind of impact does it have for the firemen and whatnot when they get a call? If they've gotten a number of false alarms, does it change the response or anything?
It does over time. People turn around, they get a little tired and they get cranky. But the guys are pretty good about turning out when they can. You don't know when the call's false and when it isn't. Although there's starting to become a bit of a pattern that people are being able to decode which ones are going to be false. And so people are taking a more of a laid-back approach to it.
How do people know that it's a false alarm?
Pardon me?
How does someone know it's a false alarm? By looking at the page.
Well, I guess let's put it this way. When the page comes in that you have a bushfire right at the corner of Prospectors Point, and we're in the middle of our rainstorm, and this is now the third bushfire for Prospectors Point in the last 2 days in the same rainstorm. Do you think it's real?
No.
When the call comes in at 2 in the morning on a continuous time? No.
No, but we put something in place, didn't we? We redid the whole bylaw in terms of how much we fine people for false alarms, and that was based, I think, on issues
Yeah,
that are
that's
happening at Kelsey Estate.
That's a
So-
false alarm though, triggered by an actual fire alarm being pulled in a structure as
Which
opposed to
is
somebody
different than-
phoning in.
Then somebody.
Because that was always my concern, is someone would look at that and say, oh, well, that's this address. Someone just pulled the alarm and away they go. Meanwhile, you have a 2-story apartment building fully engulfed in flame.
Well, they have been trying to work on it, and I know one of the calls one night, they narrowed it down to a cell phone within 20 meters of where the call originated from. But that was as close as they got the one night. So,
Oh, it's like spy versus spy stuff. Okay.
and unfortunately, 20 meters in the middle of town involves a lot of people.
It does.
So,
It does.
yeah, so it has been an issue. It has involved a few more calls, but it comes in little spurts.
Thank you.
Is our August 30th date no longer written in stone?
Oh, I think we can turn around and look at that, because I think that there's been a little more of an understanding of sort of the crisis we're in and how we're going to move forward. And I think that was more of the important point. is understanding that there is a bit of a problem and we need to move forward. You know, it is an issue. I mean, and I'll be quite honest, it's a responsibility that I've been taking, and with all the stuff that's been going on and the amount of time that I've been spending, it's something that I wasn't really feeling like I wanted to carry anymore. However, you know, it's still, like I say, we went out the other night, whether we can argue semantics whether we should have or not. The person had to come off the bridge. So we did the job. And, you know, I mean, and I'm just hypothetically talking about the lawsuit. It could potentially happen, but I don't think it will, because, you know, the job was done quite well. But it's something we need to be aware of and work towards and make sure it's not going to happen to us and safeguard the town. So,
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
Can I just make one comment, general comment in closing, that mostly before everyone departs, is that I've stated from the beginning, I think this is just my opinion, there's blame to go around everywhere, and we're just as at fault. We heard the buck stops here. Well, if you're listening, I mean, it came through in council that there's council training coming up. That's for us. Because I don't think we do a great job operating as a council, and that's got to get better too, right? So we're part of we're as much a part of the problem as everyone else. And that's unfortunate for you guys, unfortunate for these guys, but we got to get better. So. There you go.
One tiny bit of advice. Get a hold of those three guys and talk to them and tell them. Okay? They deserve that.
okay.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Fire Chief.
Greg?
You want to just hand some of those up? Here, let me. Hold on, I need a couple. Just make sure I get the whole list here. Which way do they have? There we go. Thank you. Thank you.
Pass it over after.
Okay.
All right.
We're not going to read it right now, are we?
No.
Okay, let's move along. No. Okay, we're going to move to item number 2, 2.1, the update from the municipal superintendent on the oil spill.
You should be.
Yeah.
And the assistant municipal superintendent as well.
Get on up there, Chris.
So I'm going to paraphrase basically from the news releases and some of the media updates we've received from different news organizations. So water and sediment sampling results indicate that much of the spill has been found on the river shoreline, water column, and in the river sediment, mostly located within 20 kilometers downstream of the spill. So it's generally been localized to the spill location within 20 kilometers, majority of it. Water sampling is being planned at the Manitoba-Saskatchewan border at this time due to the degrading nature of the oil and the samples which have been shared by Environment Canada and Environment Saskatchewan. The sampling is not required at this time, they don't feel, but they are prepared to do it just in case. Our local office has received all sorts of testing bottles to be prepared to do the testing if they're called upon to do so. To this point, Husky has taken 900 water samples at 60 locations between Maidstone, which is where the spill occurred, and PA, which is about 385 kilometers. And 95% of them have met Canadian drinking water standards. I believe 6 did not meet the standards that they took, but sampling at those same locations later, they were meeting Canadian drinking water standard guidelines.
Okay.
Did they fail because of the presence of hydrocarbons or
Yes,
other stuff?
yes. At the time they were taken, there was a large presence of hydrocarbons. So they retested the same areas, and they were finding that it was becoming diluted or it was moving downstream, so it was becoming less of an issue. The currently Saskatchewan government is doing risk assessments and having independent testing done as well before they allow any of the intakes to open up. Along the way, to date, approximately 140,000 liters of oil and other byproducts have been recovered so far.
Recovered so far?
Yeah.
And have they got a better estimate on what the actual spill was? Because they
They're still-
generally said between 2 and 250 or whatever.
That's what they're sticking with right now. It's
Okay.
still the same number. They said they have very valid ways to test that, so we're going to trust that until we hear otherwise,
Sure.
that's what the number is continued to be. The spill was locations approximately 700 kilometers from Manitoba border, And based on the amount of oil within 20 kilometers of a spill and the amount of dilution expected along the way, we're still being informed that the impacts are not expected to reach Manitoba. They're still sticking with that same talking point. In terms of our plan B in case of a scenario, we're still waiting our chemistries from our fire wells. So in case of an emergency, we do have fire wells located on Centennial and one on Gordon by the La Vérendrye, where we can connect to the system to provide water to the public.
When do you anticipate those results?
This week.
Okay, good.
So we're just waiting to hear back from ALS on that. So we're anticipating that the water hardness will be an issue with the wells. Therefore, it will be potentially necessary to be under precautionary boil water. So that's our preliminary understanding from the Office of Drinking Waters in our conversations with them.
You have the ability to chlorinate the water when it's coming out of that?
Yeah,
well?
we're currently exploring that, and we'll have more information again probably by the end of the week on how we would go about doing that. But we are exploring that option yet. So yeah, more that information will be provided later this week. We received an update regarding a small oil sheen that was detected at or near Tobin Lake on around July 29th or 30th. Based on the estimates provided to us from the province, we anticipate another week or two before it would reach the Manitoba-Saskatchewan border. There's so many factors that would cause it to speed up or slow down, so that's why the number is such a large span there. We're currently working internally on developing our own models to determine travel time, which is still very preliminary, but we're still trying to put the numbers together so that we feel confident that we're not just relying on press releases from the government to just give you numbers. We want to have our own data that we can provide, with some confidence, I guess, behind it. And we remain in contact with our regional officers from Sustainable Development and Office of Drinking Water.
Is the Office of Drinking Water worried about this, or no?
No. They're just making sure we have a plan in place, and they want to make sure the chemistries are up to what they need to allow us to use the firewalls.
And we have a number of plans in place, not just one. Right?
No, we will look at all options around the table, yeah.
So people
So the short and medium term would be the firewalls. In terms of long term, we're still talking with different engineering firms as what will be our potential, and we'll be exploring that more as the week goes on as well.
Appreciate you staying on top of it.
That was quick.
Thank you. Anything else, guys? Sorry.
Yeah, I can.
Oh wait, I have a list of questions. Just kidding.
I thought you guys had all questioned out.
Okay, 2.2, Eco Center Agreement renewal.
I don't have an agenda with me, so. No, okay. The Town of the Paw has been operating an eco center for 10+ years. This program helps to mitigate water contamination for oil via the recycling of used oil filter, and oil containers. The eco center is funded through Manitoba Association for Resource Recovery Corporation. Attached is an agreement that needs to be signed for a term expiring July 31st, 2018. Maximum contribution is $4,000. And this is an ongoing
Right.
agreement.
This is not news or anything like that, right?
Resolution is required.
Anybody have anything you want to bring up on that? Okay, we'll bring a resolution forward. Sign the agreement. Item number 3.1, the lakefront lots.
The town has received a request for extension from Cameron McKay and Val and Jim Burscheid with regards to Lakeview Lot Roads. The agreement stated that no later than August 15, 2016, the purchaser shall construct a basement or foundation for dwelling complying with Manitoba Building Code and the bylaws of the Town of the Paw. The agreement further stated that if this condition could not be met, a request for extension was to be made in writing. Mr. McKay has advised that he's going to start building this month, and Burscheids have completed the site development or are waiting for building locates and certificates. I've spoken with the building inspector, and he's recommending an extension to November 15th.
Okay.
Covers freeze up.
Just have a question. So would that do anything
It'll
to their date
push,
for next
yes.
year as well? So it would push their date from August to November?
Oh, that's up
next
to
year
you
as well?
guys.
I don't think it necessarily does it automatically.
It doesn't automatically, so if you want to adjust that now too, that the second stage is full live-in, ready to move in by August 15th, 2017. Chances are, once the majority of them
That's
get
a busy
started,
spring.
they're going to keep going.
Yeah, I would just do the extension for both,
Just-
so that we're
just
just
for
not
both.
another resolution, all of that.
Yeah, I agree.
They'll be in for Christmas.
Huh?
I'm not gonna stop at a foundation, right?
You
can't.
not.
You can't stop at a foundation. Keep going.
So resolution for that.
Yeah, that's just
Okay. And chances are there'll be another one coming from Mark Rice. I haven't received it yet,
Okay,
but I...
we're anticipating it though, eh?
Yeah, he's just clearing right now. He hasn't started anything with Randy.
He said he talked to Randy, but Randy not being available, he hasn't put it in writing, and I told him that last week.
Okay, and I sent him a letter too, but I just haven't heard
Okay.
back. Okay.
All right, perfect. Item number 4.1, the Paw Arts Council.
At the June 27th Committee of the Whole meeting, Council reviewed the Paw Arts Council request to put a mobile sign near the town of the Paw Planter where Fisher and Gordon Avenue meet. This sign will not be rental sign, but for the purpose of informing citizens of the Paw and surrounding area of upcoming arts and cultural events. The direction of Council was to permit the Paw Art Council to put their sign in this location. However, they would be required to be in compliance with the town of the Paw zoning bylaw, whereby a mobile sign shall be allowed on a site for a period not exceeding 90 consecutive days. No mobile sign shall be permitted thereafter until 30 consecutive days have expired. I advised them of this. I received another letter. They are asking if this can be permanent. If council is in favor of this being permanent, it will be a variation requirement because the zoning bylaw does not permit it.
One question, there's a sign there already, right? By the planter.
There's a sign there, but
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has.
I've sent letters advising everyone that
Really don't.
signs need to be removed, but,
Yeah.
because this is the sign that they want to use, and
Yeah.
that is a mobile sign.
So what about like businesses that have the, like, if it's a business and they have one that looks like that, is it still considered a mobile sign? 'Cause I mean, I know businesses who've had their sign in the same spot
And that's why
for
letters have been going
way
out.
more than 90 days, so I
That
just,
aspect
how do
of the
you,
bylaw was
like,
not-
well, yeah, like, without going up and rounding up all of those signs, like, how do you say no?
Councillor Conlon, I thought you had your hand up.
Did-
Okay. Brian?
I'm just wondering, where exactly will the sign be placed?
At the north end of the town planter.
The north side of the planter?
Yeah.
They never specified.
Well, that's what they had
in that
said,
area
that
somewhere, yeah.
off to the edge there. That's what they had said.
My question was that, now you're going to have like 3 signs, or like,
Well, the other
How
two
we-
should be removed if the
Okay.
letters are followed.
And then we're going to allow somebody else to put one there permanently. You two get your signs out of here so we can put this
So we
there,
can put
but-
this one.
Yeah. Tell that entrepreneur to hit the road.
I personally, I don't agree with the mobile sign being left there, unfortunately.
I mean, if you want them to have a different kind of sign, not just a mobile sign, then
The
that's...
problem is when you have a permanent sign, you just say, that's it, that's all. Boots are on sale for 4 years. Nobody changes a letter, they fade out, they don't look good, the sign breaks, it's on an angle, and they drive by and they go, you know, one of these days I'm going to fix that. And they never do. And
Next
that's
spring.
why people are in the business of providing those signs for sale events, and then when the sale's over, whoosh, different words go up on the board. Same thing as the billboards, you see the great big billboards. They're not there for years, they're up there for a short term. And the words keep changing. Those guys that do it for a living, and I don't think we should be stepping on their toes.
So I think, though, that the Arts Council, if that's what they would like, is a mobile sign that they can change all of the time, that they should follow the bylaw for what a mobile sign is. There's plenty of space along the main drag that they could move the sign, and I don't think that they have so many events throughout the year that they will run out of places to put a sign. So I don't know, maybe my suggestion would be to just let them know that if that's the sign that they would like to use, that they need to follow the zoning bylaw, and if they want to come back at us with something else, a different kind of sign or whatever, that they would be free to do so. But, and I mean, we need to crack down on those people who haven't moved their signs. Can we tow signs?
Well, you can load them on the back of a flatbed.
Like, could we
Nolan.
not
That's how they
like go
get
and
there.
put like a notice on there that says like you have 72 hours or 96 hours or whatever to move this sign, or it's going to be removed because it's
sign
trespassing?
ticket.
Well, it's trespassing, like you're putting your property on somebody else's property, right?
The bylaw allows for that, though, doesn't it?
Tim
just change it.
Smith and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
Told him that expectations were going to be met, especially after a little bit of a fiasco this spring where his
Yeah.
signs did get packed up and taken
Yeah.
back to his property.
Yeah.
He hasn't complied with that. Harley Bond now will be looking after that, being that that's bylaw enforcement, but he is already on top of it and...
The end is
we're gonna
near.
look after it.
I just want to make sure that we don't have the Arts Council in here then saying, look at all these signs and, yeah.
No, we were actually taking measurements a couple weeks ago, because the spacing is specific, all those kind of things. So we have all the ducks in a row for when Harvey does get his letter together. It's
Okay.
specific.
Do we have like I don't know, like a fine or some sort of punishment like that goes out, or is it just kind of like I said, I mean, do you give them a warning and tell them they have 72 hours to move it, or, you know, your sign becomes town
I've never
property?
noticed-
Like, could
I've
we
never
use some
noticed in the fee
signs?
schedule,
No.
but
Chelsea Rec needed a new sign, eh?
it's one of those things where, yeah. they
Get them a
just
couple of
taken
those
away.
mobile ones with all those letters.
Well, if it's
Especially if
good,
they're on town property, at the end of the day, it's trespassing, so never ask permission.
yeah.
Unfortunately, he has been smart enough to put them on non-town public property.
And he's probably asked the
He
homeowners.
could have, but either way, the sign is on display, which is still a violation of the.
We'll
So
find out.
are those homeowners or people who own the property gonna wanna get like a fine or something because they have a sign on their thing that's, you know, I mean, sorry to play.
So I'll tell the
softball,
Arts Council it can't be permanent, and we will keep working. Randy and Harley and I will keep working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're more than welcome to have their mobile sign, it's just they're gonna have to move it 4 times a year.
You okay?
No, I have actually a comment for these people with signs. If they move them, people will see them. If you sit them there all the time, we're all creatures of habit. Well, there's a sign. They don't even read them anymore. Move them around.
get different
Yeah, if it's summertime, there's no
It's a
point
benefit for
advertising
them.
your Easter special. Brian?
Yeah, I think the moving it, the maintaining it too, to me is critical. Like, because with these kind of particular signs that are on the ground and are accessible by anybody that comes by, they can be changed at any time and inappropriate language can show up and whatnot. And then the people that put it there, they're nowhere to be found and it's on our property. The other thing that just came to mind is whether or not this type of old-style sign is appropriate for the future going forward, and should they and others be maybe looking at pooling money for an electronic one that could be changed, updated, and then handled without all this hassle. And because the problem I have is if we say, yeah, go ahead, and then they break the rules and don't follow things, then we have to spend money to enforce them. And when we do things and we don't enforce them, we're just sending the wrong message to the community, so.
It's a good idea about having like one big electronic sign. Maybe that's something that, Kyle, you're on the Chamber of
Kirsty's
Commerce.
looking at a,
Well, no,
Yeah,
but
Kirsty's
the Chamber of
Uh,
Commerce, maybe you
well,
can
they have
mention
the
to
one
the
at-
chamber,
They have the one that,
the Visitor Information Center there, is
it's
that
very
right?
inexpensive to take the fluorescent R and put it up there, and then put up there and put up there.
it's a cost factor.
It is, and
Those
if you want to go to the
electronic
LED sign, they start around
signs
50 grand for anything
cost a
decent.
lot of money.
But if the chamber got like, say, like the Uptown Mall merchants and some of the businesses like along the main street there, and places like the Arts Council or like, you know, Kinsman and Rotary and places that do rent signs and partake in advertising, it might be something that if everybody pulled together and paid for it.
Well, that
Happy
might be the
birthday,
thing,
Uncle
but we
Harold,
need the
10
money.
bucks, please.
Well, or yeah, even something like that, right? Or, I mean, travelers might rent it, or,
McGowan likes
So,
those signs.
no, they can't have a permanent sign.
sorry, unless it's prettier. Unless it's like an actual permanent sign, not just one of those.
4.2, the Northern Woods and Water Highway.
I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this. I know Jim has,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The Northern Woods and Water route is a 2,400 kilometer route through northern British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Northern Woods and Water Route Association was established in 1974 and encouraged promotion of the route with promise of an increase in tourist travel. The route was designated in 1974 and is well signed throughout the connector highways. However, the association has fell by the wayside. Mr. Harrison, who is the president, would like the town to become a member of this association, which would be $2,000 for $2016 and 2017, plus purchase an ad in the brochure. My recommendation is that since we do not have an economic development department, we pass this on to the CDC to see if they're interested in it.
I agree.
Thoughts?
No, I agree with,
We don't really have a functioning CDC right now. They haven't been able to have a meeting with people being busy, so that kind of seems like a I don't know, to be blunt, a cop-out, like, we don't know, like, I mean, I think we should just make a decision. Do we want to be a member or not? If we don't feel it's appropriate for us to be a member right now, then let's just make that decision. But sending it to the CDC, I mean, it's not, nothing's gonna happen because there's nobody there. They don't have a staff person right now to do anything or to make an ad or whatever, right? So I think this council should just make that decision. If we feel like it's something that's important enough for the town to be mentioned and be a part of, then let's jump on the ship. And if we don't, then let's just say that and
Let's say no and see if the publication turns up again next year with any kind of fanfare for its publicity. And if it turns out that it's actually in existence and it's well publicized and it seems like a great thing, then we can sign on. We don't have anything in the budget for this year anyway.
Even when the Saskatchewan government agrees to pave 283, or whatever number they have it on their side, then I would probably be, fighting for us to spend $3,000 in that publication. But right now, that is a work road, and it's a way for us to get from A to B, and the only people looking at it are you and me. And I don't think we should spend $2,000 on that.
And the trucks.
I don't.
agreed.
It's not in the budget at this time, so we don't really have the dollars to spend on it for this time slot, but we could just pass it along to the CDDs for to set up a file for future reference. That's, because it comes around every year, probably.
Nothing wrong with looking at the Sears catalog. All right, 4.3, assessment roll.
As at the last committee of the whole meeting, the assessment branch has submitted deletions and additions to the assessment roll, which we just passed resolution for. The town has received a second notice with more deletions with regards to properties that were received through the tax sale. Now that these are town-owned properties, there was a property tax change that was required, or category was changed.
Right.
So it's in the amount, a deletion in the amount of $7,036.85.
Where are the additions?
Yeah,
We had
last year was way
1,600
better.
bucks.
Yeah. Last year was better. We were in the brown. I mean,
Okay.
black.
Yeah. Okay.
Resolution is required.
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll take these.
4.4, payroll and accounts.
Attached is a finance report and a check register for Town of Pot and KRC. We need a resolution for town checks in the amount of $134,611.17. Just one note that check 17477 to the city of Brandon in the amount of $21,059.66 was for 911 services.
I just have a couple of things.
Yep.
Could we get like an actual detailed finance report soon-ish, just because we're going to be going into budget deliberations and
the
we
big one
haven't,
Jody does?
yeah, like
Yeah.
we haven't had one in a while. And just another thing that's more like an aesthetics thing for me is, could we not call it a finance report? Just because if you go to like some of the other places that have finance reports, when they say finance report, they mean like the big long one that like Jody does, right? So like some people find it confusing. Yeah, like I don't even know if we could just call, like, I don't know what to call it, like an expense report or something like that. But yeah, like a finance report throws people off thinking that they're gonna get like this big long thing, and then they complain that we're hiding our finances when in fact we're not. But I mean, I can see why the name's a little bit confusing.
But
I think it's a monthly.
we as a council, though, don't know where we are.
I was just going to say, though, that there are some specific names for the big, long reports that you're talking about, like month-end statement, budget year-to-date statements, like, I would be hesitant to start calling that stuff the finance report, when in fact, that's what the auditors look at, and they're looking for very specific titles on these things.
Okay, so can we call that something else and still change the name for this, though? Like-
Sure, I just wanted to make sure.
It might be in PSAP, so we don't, if that's what it is called in PSAP, then
I will check with
probably-
Jody for
but-
different titles.
Okay.
But
Well,
you
anytime
want
that we got
to
any-
Yeah, we want like a big,
We want to know where we're at, year-to-date spending.
Yeah.
Let's get us
Yes,
to,
we
let's
took-
get us to quarterly.
yeah, year to
We've only
date.
had one.
working on an
one
audit
for
right now
community
too, so
We've only had one, yeah, we've only had up to March.
March is the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'd like up
Where are
to
we?
the end of July at least, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we'll have a resolution to pay the bills. 5.1, energy advocate.
And your
Request from you.
titles of reports changed. Sorry, I'm on one notch already. Energy advocate, is that where we were?
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're on energy advocate.
In April of this year, Council passed a resolution signing an agreement with Manitoba Hydro with regards to the creation and implementation of a community energy plan and to provide funding for an energy advocate. The town has hired Emily Doucette as a successful applicant, and she's been awarded the 2-year contract as our energy advocate person. We need a resolution.
It's a fine resolution, we should go ahead and do that.
That's a 2-year program?
This is going to make council get very, very happy.
Is it really? That's awesome.
Yeah, it was for 2 years.
Yeah,
Very
that's
happy.
wicked.
Not the next council year.
And it was the town of Paw and Dauphin.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to say guinea pig communities, but the two.
Yeah,
that's what we are, for the test cases.
We are,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
And I believe Carrie, our HR officer, is going to put Emily in touch with the energy advocate from Dauphin, but they're having a hard time filling.
Is
it.
she on site now?
Yeah, she started on. She started on
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah?
August 2nd. She started
Oh,
last
good.
week. Last
Excellent.
Monday.
Okay,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
okay, let's move this in camera.
Oh, okay.
Be it resolved that we now do move ourselves into the in-camera portion of the committee of the whole meeting with Mayor Scott and the chair to discuss matters requiring our attention.
Well, the crowd dwindled down.
No.
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 Most definitely not.